Our next up, it's actually perfect timing. And I was happy to watch it. It was the 2014, I can't believe it was 2014, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the Michael Bay one. The first one. I mean, we weren't going to watch the second one first, but we were, obviously. This was actually pretty interesting, having just watched Mutant Mayhem. I say it's the reasons it's interesting is because that's like actually a really good movie. Mutant Mayhem was actually really good. Surprisingly really good for what I was, I had no real expectations going into it. And I don't really know anything about, well, I mean, I know the basics about Ninja Turtles. The Bay Turtles are like, it made me appreciate Mutant Mayhem a lot more. So, the Bay Turtles movie, it's not very good. It's below average, I would say. I don't like to rate things on a scale, but it's like a 4 out of 10. I remember we were eating like dinner at Kat's house one time, and I could see the TV in the living room from where I was sitting, and her mom was watching like the latest... No, it was Transformers The Last Night. I think that's the one that it was. And there's like a scene where they're in... It's like an opening... It's like an early action scene or something with a bunch of kids. There's this one kid, he's wearing a shirt that says... Football is my girlfriend, which is awesome. And it's like a war zone thing. And I was watching it, and for like a solid minute, I thought that it was behind the scenes footage. And then I realized, oh no, this is a real movie. It's just that everything... Michael Bay movies, I was trying to put it into words, and it's so difficult for me to describe. Michael Bay's movies don't feel like movies. I think I heard one time that they feel like music videos, which I think is more apt, but there's even something beyond it. It's the way that he always has the camera moving, like all the time. He is this obsession with having the camera move in every single shot. He's very... I mean, if he wants to make a dynamic looking scene, he can do it, but like all the time. It's, I don't know, something about the color grading in his movies, the lens flares are really weird. Something about it just like doesn't... It just doesn't work for me. I imagine it works for someone, but not me. It's like very stylized, but in a bad way, you know? Like, I guess the running theme of this is creatives with too much control. I should have talked about the Star Wars prequels in this. Okay, so the Bay Turtles, right? I would describe the movie overall as being low impact. This film is really strange because for like the first 40%, it's not a Ninja Turtles movie. It's an April O'Neil movie with Megan Fox. And then like around that 40% mark, it like remembers that it's a Ninja Turtles movie, and they stop being side characters and start slowly becoming main characters, except 3 of them are gone. And then and then by the end, it's like fully a Ninja Turtles movie, but they have not established the Ninja Turtles in any kind of strong way. So when the movie's emotional core tries to be about the Turtles, these 4 characters, these brothers, it completely falls flat. So, okay, I can see what they were trying to go for, and maybe it would have worked if it wasn't a movie. If this had been like... How long is this thing? Is it 2 hours? It's 1 hour and 41 minutes. This could have benefited from like an extra maybe 20 minutes. And that might sound weird, but it really needs a little bit of work. It needs more work with the characters. It essentially starts out with like, okay, I see what they're going for. April Neal is this plucky young reporter. She's investigating these mishaps, these crimes around the city by the so-called Foot Clan. And there's like a weird minute-long introduction that's just Splinter narrating about the turtles, and then it gets dropped. And then it's just, I don't know, it feels very shoehorned in. The movie is really, it starts with April, and she's trying to get a scoop on the Foot Clan, and she sees she sees the Ninja Turtles one night. And she's like, what the hell? Well, she doesn't see that they're turtles yet. She just sees that there's someone out there. And so she takes the story to her editor, and the editor's like, who's Whoopi Goldberg. She's like, you sound really stupid right now. So April's like, I gotta get another scoop. So she runs into the turtles again on another Foot Clan attack. And they're like, she encounters them and records them, and they're like, oh, we're Ninja Turtles, and this is like, it feels like 30 minutes into the movie. It takes really long to even see the Ninja Turtles like in person, in the shell. And then by that time, this whole plot has kickstarted with this guy. His name is Sack. He's working with the Spreader, and he's gonna make a thing with the turtle blood. Again, back to the milking element. There's more milking in this, just like in Mutant Mayhem. And he's gotta get the turtles to milk their blood because it has this like panacea in it that will cure any disease and like regenerate cells. It's the ooze. And he's like a Metal Gear Rising character. He's gonna release a big toxin over the city and like kill a bunch of people, and then be like, hey, I have the cure, it's in my ooze. It's a big false flag operation. And then he kidnaps like 3 of the turtles, and Raphael he gets left behind because they think he's dead, and then Splinter gets completely fucked up by the Spreader. And then Raphael and April and that Vern guy from the cartoon have to go stop the Spreader. And they do that. So you see what I mean? Where it's like, it's largely April focused, and there's not a lot of... It's weird. It doesn't feel like you get this despite the fact that the movie is apparently about that, it's named after them, you don't really get like a introduction to them as characters. They just kind of show up, and they're like they have like banter, and you get a sort of idea for their personality, but they feel like side characters in their own movie. And then by the climax, they've graduated towards main characters. And it's really weird feeling, because all the whole... April should have been the side character. She should have been the side character. Her whole deal is she's trying to get recognized for her reporting abilities. But I don't give a fuck about that. I'm here to watch some big turtle guys. I'm here to watch them fight goons. Someone's yelling in Spanish out there. I'm here to see them fight some footmen. Ooh, sounds weird. They don't have like a very strong like in that initial. I just think of Mutant Mayhem. The way that you're introduced to those characters is when they're on the rooftop. Leonardo's doing his like cool Batman voice, and then it kind of pans out, and there's like a minute, there's a whole minute dedicated to just a little comedic scene of them interacting, and you get a really decent idea of each of their personalities. And there's like some it's clear that they get along and they're brothers and there's overlap between them, but they have their own distinct sorts of things going on. I'm sure if I watched it again and paid attention to the dialogue, I could probably remember a couple specific things. But like, there's just constant good characterization. Every single one of those characters in that movie feels very unique, and you can understand each of their motives even when they're like all aligned. Like, each of them approach the same situation in different kind of ways, and like that's why they have such a strong, they make a really strong impression, if that makes sense. In the Bay Turtles, they just kind of have like tongue-in-cheek banter. Does that make sense? They make some cultural references and they make some jokes, and they don't feel particularly like, I don't know how I describe it. They don't feel like particularly like they're expressing anything unique. It's like, okay, it's like when there's like a comic relief character, but the comic relief character is a voice for the writer and not the character. It isn't like, this is a joke that this character would find funny. This is a joke that the writer hopes the audience will laugh at. Does that make sense? They feel like puppets, more so than the Jim Henson version, which I have not seen, but I'm assuming they feel less like puppets there. So there's this weird shift where then, like, by the end they're having this crazy fight with the spreader, and like they think that they're gonna die. It's like, weirdly, it's so weird. You could make a direct parallel. Maybe that would be a fun video. A direct parallel, not for me to make, but a direct parallel between this movie and scenes from this film and scenes from Mutant Mayhem, because there's also a scene where like they all think they're gonna die, and they all like, oh, what's your last words and all that. They do the same like last words bit in both films, and in Mutant Mayhem, it's like, oh, this is actually like kind of sweet. It works because, oh, you know the relationship between all of them. You see how they get along. You see how they kind of clash a little bit, and then, but at the end, it's like, oh, they really do care about each other. In this one, Raphael has this whole big spiel about how he's like, every time I was mean to you guys and I pushed you guys, it's because I believe in you. And it's this like incredible, emotional monologue speech as they're falling to their deaths. And I was like, this movie did not earn this. This film is not, I do not care at all about these characters enough for this to have any kind of an impact on me. It's so weird. You spend so little time with the actual turtles as a group. They're split up for so much of it because they get kidnapped like halfway through. And like, I don't know. It's just the movie completely fails to sell you on the turtles or their bond as characters. It does more to sell the interracial relationship between Michelangelo and April O'Neil. Which is also like it's a thing. They always got to have that, I guess. Just low. Hey, speaking of low impact, the action in this movie sucks. Maybe it's because we were watching it on like a small laptop screen, but everything feels really like too tight. Everything feels too like it's shot in a way that's just, it's too narrow. I can't really see what's going on. The camera's always moving around. It's really dark. There's probably decent choreography somewhere in there, but there's a lot of things in the film that just feel like, honestly, the lack of the turtles in the early parts of the movie feel like they're covering for the budget. Like they're trying not to spend too much money excuse me, on the horrifying CGI. Where they don't, the cat made the comment on Mutant Mayhem that in that movie they feel a lot like teenagers, which I agree with. And again, the contrast to this one is kind of staggering. Michael Bay or whoever was the screenwriter, their equivalent to teenager talk, I guess, is have them make pop culture references, and that's sort of it. They don't really they don't feel immature, not really. Again, they're lacking a lot of characterization beyond the very basics of what they're supposed to be. Donatello's the big nerd. He's the big nerd, and Leonardo is leader, and Michelangelo likes white women. But other than that, it's like it's like banking off of you being familiar with the characters from other material. Oh, you know what happens? They say cowabunga in this movie, and it's supposed to be like, oh, they say cowabunga. And Kat looked at me and she was like, they didn't say that a single time in Mutant Mayhem. And you know what that is? That's restraint. And I 100% agree with her. You know why they didn't say cowabunga in Mutant Mayhem? You know why they said cowabunga initially? You know why it's a Ninja Turtles thing? Because in the 80s, when that comic came out, that was stupid teenager talk. That was a stupid teenage slang word somewhere. It was supposed to be dumb because it was like a parody. What's a dumb thing teenagers say? You know what? If the Ninja Turtles were written today as just like a fresh thing that didn't exist before, they would be saying sus. They would be saying Riz. And shit like that. They would not be saying cowabunga in 2023. And then, in like the word Riz would be carried forward like 30 years in pop culture purely because of adaptations of this one property. Did they never say that? Man, yeah, this really makes me appreciate Mutant Mayhem a lot more. I guess the design for Shredder is sort of neat. He's like a cyborg Shredder. He's got these like crazy blade attachments on his arms that he like flicks out, and he can throw the blades out and then return them to him via magnetism, which is kind of a neat gimmick. It's there. There's some kind of funny scenes where the spreader is talking to other characters, and one of them will just start talking in Japanese, usually the Japanese guy, and they won't have subtitles as far as I can tell. We watched it with subtitles on the site we watched it on. But then the other person will just reply in English for the American audience for their sake. So that was kind of funny. There's a horrible moment where Vern, who finally, believes that, they're actually big turtles. And she's like, no, they're like vigilantes. They're like crime fighters. And he goes, heroes in the half shell? And I cringed out of my my skeleton walked out of my body. Said I'm out. The whole thing is just very weird and low impact. Just like a gentle, oh, okay, I never really cared about what was going on. Some things were sort of fun to make fun of. But for the most part, it's just a lot of Michael Bay visual, directorial Michael Bay-isms. There's a shot of Megan Fox's ass. There's a lot of stuff. It's bad. It's I don't know if it's the maybe we should oh god, that's totally going to be our next marathon. She's going to make me watch all the Ninja Turtles movies. Actually, that might be fun. I've heard that like the old the Jim Henson one is good. I know the second one has Vanilla Ice, who's my favorite white person. And yeah, I legitimately cannot think of, it's a very forgettable movie. There's one scene where they're in the elevator. It's the trailer scene. It's where they're in the elevator and they start doing a little rap. And it's like, this might have been fun if I knew anything about these characters at all. Yeah, don't watch it. They also look creepy and weird, and I don't like it.